Good morning, councillors. If we could please, and staff, if we could stand for the prayer. Almighty God, we acknowledge that we have a responsibility to look after your creation, especially this region we call Barcaldine Regional Council. We are conscious that our decisions are going to affect deeply the people that we have come here to serve. Assist us to exercise respect for councillors, staff, and for the people of our region. Help us in this meeting to act wisely, justly, and intelligently in all our deliberations. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege of both leading and serving, and assist us to do these well. Amen. Councillors, we'll pause for condolences today to mark the passing of the late Mr. Gordon Frost at Barcaldine. Is there any other community members that have passed away since the last meeting?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, formerly of Barcaldine, Mr. Eris Vale and Mrs. Dorothy, Rosemary Webster, sorry.
Right, give me as well, please. Any more? Okay, thank you. Thank you. There are no apologies, although I do note for the purpose of the record, Councillor Peoples is attending remotely. Good morning, Councillor Peoples. Take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we meet and their elders, past, present and emerging. I now call for declarations of prescribed conflict of interest that may have arisen since or with respect to new agenda items. Councillor Peoples.
Yeah, I just spoke to Shepard about the reform policy. I'm pretty sure that's around last time that was discussed, so that's the case.
Okay, so that's the agenda item 325.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, please.
Councillor Gleeson.
I don't believe so, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hanson.
I believe I may have run in 3.25 with the uniform policy as well, Mr. Mayor.
Is that it? Councillor Arthur.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I inform the meeting that I have prescribed conflict of interest in the following matters. 3.2.1, the fleet purchase grader. 3.2.2, fleet purchase multi-tie roller. That's due to a close associate of mine as a supplier of wet and dry clean hire to council. The name of the close associate is Michael Long Transport, as they are my employer. And 3.2.5, the human resources policies, I should say. Close associate of mine is a contractor to council, and works contractors are included in at least one of the policies. And that close associate is Michael Long Transport, as they are my employer.
Thank you. Councillor Plum.
Mr. Mayor, probably the 3.2.5, if it's mentioned as a contractor, and I don't agree with contractors.
And family.
Yes.
I just lost a quorum on that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, right. So we'll delegate that to the delegated committee. We'll meet today. So just someone work out how we're going to do that.
Do that at the end. I wish to inform the meeting that I have a material conflict of interest in 3.2.3, the Lungborough Sculpture Committee requests, and I will need to move that. And also 3.2.5, Human Resources Policy, in the following policies: HR 007, HR 011, and HR 013. So I will leave it at that. Mr. Mayor.
So councillors, pursuant to our delegated policy, it's now become apparent that the Chamber will no longer maintain a quorum for agenda item 325. Looking at the policy in front of me, do we need to move to delegate that to that committee? I will do. When we get to that, councillors, we will move that agenda item be referred to the Policy Standing Committee. The Policy Standing Committee today will consist of councillors Gleeson and Dillon.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Just for the records, I haven't got anything written down, but I've been made aware that my family, my daughter, have removed themselves off the vendor panel list. So I don't believe that their names are on the vendor panel as contractors anymore. So that is why I did not have a prescribed or conflict of interest.
Okay, very good. Is any councillor present believe anyone else may have overlooked anything in terms of declarations? Okay. Declarations of declarable conflicts of interest. Councillor Peebles.
I think I'm right.
Councillor Gleeson.
I think, not that I'm aware of.
Councillor Hanson.
I don't believe so, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Arthur.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Plum. Councillor Rogers.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have my a long-standing declarable interest in 3.6.5, 3.6.7, the progress report, and 2.6.8, the community engagement coordinator's report, which was on my link to the Lake Gunner Sculpture Trail, and I would like to participate. However, I acknowledge that eligible councillors must determine, pursuant to section 150 of the ES of the Local Government Act, whether I may participate.
Thank you, councillor. Councillors, the standing position for Councillor Rogers is that we have allowed her to remain in the room for discussions around the receival and discussion thereon of reports that contain reference to the Lake Dun Sculpture Trail and or projects on the Lake Dun Sculpture Trail. Does any councillor present wish this morning to change that status? That being the case, then the existing position for Councillor Rogers allowing her to remain in the room stands. Does any councillor present believe any other councillor may have overlooked a declarable conflict of interest? There being none, we now move to the confirmation of minutes. Can somebody please move that we receive the minutes of the meeting 21 November? Councillor Arthur, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour? 7-0. Are there any errors, omissions or alterations that councillors would like to raise? Can I have somebody move that then we would confirm the minutes of the 21 November meeting? Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour? You're in favour, Councillor Peebles? Carried, 7-0. Do any staff or councillors present have any petitions in the correct and proper style to present? No. Reports, confidential reports. Is the officer's intent to recommend to council to close the meeting to discuss this, or is it just kept confidential for the purposes of discussion so that the full letter wasn't published on the website?
I believe that's all.
Okay, Karen, fire away. I mean, I think the pretty well speaks for itself actually. Have you got anything to add to it?
No, nothing really to add unless there's any questions from councillors.
Right, councillors, questions, please? No questions? Do I have a mover? Councillor Plum, a seconder. Councillor Hanson, any debate? Those in favour? Against? 7-0. So all of us. 3, 2, 1, fleet purchase traders. Yep.
Sure you want to take a lead on this?
I guess it's also a detailed report, Kerry. I mean, if you want, are you really open for questions at this stage, or have you got anything you'd like to add before we go?
I think it's detailed, it's pretty straightforward too. It's, we looked at several options and the report's made its recommendation.
Councillors, just if you cast your memory back, if you're thinking about the difference between the 140M and the 150M, remember when Hastings were here and gave us the presentation on the stabiliser, they discussed the renumbering and where the different size machines ended up. I mean, I think that report, certainly on page 9, spells out the chief differences between the 140s that we currently operate in the fleet versus which are essentially the old 12s, councillors, for those of you who know that series well. That's right. And then the 150s are the 14s. Typical of Caterpillar, when they just get on a roll with a numbering system, they change it. But yeah, I guess that. I guess just quickly to funnel the discussion in the right order. Are we comfortable with proceeding with the officer's recommendation for Caterpillar machines?
Can I just ask questions?
Certainly.
I think you've got to.
Sorry, Councillor Rogers.
The 150s have no difference in size. We won't need a larger carrier, trailer to carry it. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Beeson.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. I believe that it is going to cost more money, but we should stick to the one breeder machine right through. It is a little bit confusing on page 11 when the recommendation we recommend that from Komatsu on that particular page is recommending Komatsu. But while I'm
That was only until you go right to the bottom, so they were just purely recommending Komatsu on price, and then when you remove to the bottom of page 14, the whole tender evaluation concluded that the overall best package was from Hastings.
Yeah.
So that was just
That's maintenance, whole of line costs.
that's correct, and trading. That's right, Kerry.
That's correct. To me.
Can I ask, are we not trading or are we going for auction? It is recommended somewhere that we possibly should go for auction rather than go for trade.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have a price for trade from Caterpillar, but we also have a price from two different auction houses recommending that there's about $75,000 difference between trade and auction. Auction coming out about.
So, yeah, so those, the only figure that we've got in front of us actually is the trade-in price. And
The trading price is spelt out though. Like you can remove the trading price yourself there, and the price in the officer's recommendation doesn't include trade.
no, it doesn't include the trade.
No.
So what I'm saying is, are we all comfortable that we're spending $1 million and then on the hope, $1 million straight out on the hope that we are going to get that extra money for the machinery, or are we better off having a trade and there's no risk involved?
$150,000, I reckon, is a big margin of error. Even if they're wrong by 50%, we're still $75,000 better off. Of course, the clearance house you know, you'll lose 10%, but only 10% usually?
No, Mr Mayor, the house that we use, the buyer purchases.
Right, so no list fee,
So there's no fee on looking after the seller.
no commission either?
No.
That's good.
Yeah, so there's no outstanding fees. With the council situation, is there a tax or a GST component or anything like that on after sales vehicles like that?
GST will apply, yes. So the same as it does here, purchasing or selling. There's an allowance for GST. You know that the trading price is ex GST, but there's actually GST applied to a trade as well. Delivery time, 20 weeks is all I saw.
About 48 weeks.
So it must be 20 weeks for the rollers.
Yes.
So we're a year away from getting these anyway. This time next year.
Yeah, how does that go with your auction? You know, we're assuming that the auction price is this much now, and yet it's not going to happen for another nearly 12 months.
I just want to ask, Hastings going to guarantee that, knowing full well that it's going to put on, you know, roughly 1,200 hours between now and then? Is that the trading price on today's value, or the point of the estimate hourly?
It's the trade-in through Mr Mayor, or you, Mr Mayor, it's the trade-in price and within the delivery time. So with the additional hours on.
And that was the estimate that the auction house gave you as well?
Yes.
Or that? All right, councillors, where are you at?
Mr Mayor, it's within the budget, I can't find my budget because it doesn't actually say down here on the budget the resource implications. It just, like, the next machinery, it has a figure. It's within our budget.
I didn't have a budget program.
Is the value though within it?
That's just Jason. Because you're going to receive it next year. You're going to
It's
revisit.
actually, it's not this year's budget now anyway.
It's still part of the budget allocated. It is the allocated budget.
It is.
So, councillors, your thoughts? Righto. Just with respect, does any councillor just want to give, so we do have a mover, but before we go to a seconder, are we comfortable to not trade, or would you like to trade? Councillor Gleeson, I think, is leaning towards trading.
From you, Mr Mayor, I believe Catstock and offer us the best price because they're going to want to make a profit on the resale, but so I can't see us losing that auction anyway. Even if we only get the trade price at auction, we still have to lose.
Councillor Peoples, do you have a thought? You're on mute, councillor.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. Was there 75,000 difference between the trade and the auction?
That's the estimate for both machines, yes.
Okay. Yeah, Mr Mayor, that's a fair bit, but you know, I'll have to listen to the other discussion, but you know, I'd probably lean toward auction if there's that much difference, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Plum.
Oh, I only have reservations, as Councillor Gleeson said, with regards to that difference between the hours that it's done up to when we're going to trade it or auction it. And yeah, that was my only question, which was answered. But yes, so we're gonna probably get more for our bang for our buck, so we'll go to auction.
Hastings have always offered us, in my experience, well above anyone else for the trade, and that's obvious here once again. The substantially higher trade figures than the other two competitors, but they've always sold the graders as well way before we picked them up, the new ones, if you know what I mean. So there is clearly a market that they have for them. So I would suggest that they will put the floor in the market at auction anyway, knowing the graders. If there's no fees associated with listing at the auction house, then I can't see us losing. Sorry, Dan.
I was going to say the budget for both those was a net price of 340,000. So based on trade, we would be slightly over budget on both items, but the auction price included would have those coming in on budget.
On budget.
Under budget.
Under budget.
Right, well, I think that seals it for me, that we stick with going to auction on that basis. So Councillor Rogers moves, Councillor Plum seconds. Is there any further debate? There being none, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried 6-0. 6-0.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, should we have it in the resolution that we go to auction?
Well, the officer's recommendation is that we do that, but actually we'll probably need a subsequent resolution later when we go to dispose of those assets under our asset disposal policy. So that will be a separate resolution at the time that happens. So I'm pretty sure, Shane, Dan, under the asset disposal policy, it needs a resolution of council to either sell by auction or sell by private tender for assets over a certain value.
Generally, it would just be normal course of business, but
I don't think so. I think there's, we'll check that, Councillor Plum, on
Just
Councillor Peoples. Councillor Peoples, do you recall the asset disposal policy? We had some serious discussion around it, some items.
Yeah. Mr Mayor, I can't.
You,
we just got it up here, we got it.
it's a good point, Councillor Plummer. Just before we move on, if it's appropriate to do it now, we can do it. I mean, I think the fact is we're not actually disposing it probably for another over 12 months, because you wouldn't sell these until the other ones are integrated into the.
Yeah, I just thought that having a new council.
So through the chair, the asset disposal policy allows officers to sell the asset at auction, invite written tenders, and if not sold by auction or tender, sell non-current assets at a price that is more than the highest tender or auction bid. There's some other options around disposing of assets to government agencies and community organisations as well, or trading, but the approval that's required from council is that we are able to dispose of that asset, not the method that's disposed of, but the actual disposal.
So you just need permission to dispose of the asset.
Yep, which was done as part of the adopted budget.
Okay, right. So that's done.
It doesn't need specific.
Right. Thank you. We can go to agenda item 322, please. Kerry, multi-tide rollers.
Well, Mr Mayor, this one's fairly straightforward again. We looked at three options, and Caterpillar came out on top, although there are some reservations still with the Caterpillar, mainly being the air conditioning unit. And it's not a comfortable machine. Not a comfortable machine to operate in high temperatures, but the others have their own delineators where they're not as good either. But as I said, overall the Caterpillar came out on top, and it's virtually like for like. So the staff are used to the machines they've got now.
Okay, is there any, have Hastings been approached with that feedback about the air conditioning? Have they got any comments about it?
Yes, they have, and they don't have a fix. There is an aftermarket fix, but it's not really effective either.
Like a red dot system or something, roof mounted? Yeah, no, they're not. They work, but they're uncomfortable as well.
They also increase the height of the machine. So, yeah.
And if it's parked outside, can, yeah, cause all sorts of problems here. Okay, comments, questions, observations?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we've got cat rollers.
Predominantly, exclusively
Predominantly
nearly.
cat rollers at the moment. Are we having operator problems with, you know, the operators button up on that or?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, we aren't having any operational problems as such, and so the only thing is driver discomfort, operating discomfort in the heat. That could be in any machine really.
So, and on that point, the officers are recommending that we don't trade as well, is that correct? Or that you are,
No,
sorry, no, you are trading these ones? Yep. And that fits within budget?
Through the chair, no. The budget for each of these was 130 each, so it's slightly over. About the same as what the graders would be under that. So net wise, it's probably at zero.
130 each, and the total net cost is actually going to be 337. So we'll be looking at about $77,000 over.
Which is about the same as what the graders would.
One grader will be, yeah. Oh, no, both.
Both would be under.
Yeah, okay. Right, questions further? Mover? Councillor Gleeson and Councillor Hanson seconds, those in favour? Carried 6-0. Now I think Councillor Rogers will leave and Councillor Arthur will rejoin. Okay, councillors, Paula, have you, once again, detailed report, it's all there, anything to add?
No, the committee's just looking to formalise the previous agreement, Mr Mayor.
Yep, and I'd imagine a little bit of concern over who might be actually making the decisions around this table come the time of the event's got them concerned, and they'd like to guarantee that money's there, and I've got absolutely no problem with that myself personally. Councillor Gleeson? Anyone? Do I have a mover? I'll move it. Councillor Hanson seconds. Those in favour? 6-0. Councillor Rogers may rejoin. This is just a rat on three stuff that fast this morning, councillors. I can't drink my coffee. 3-2-4. Probably not a valid excuse. The ratepayers don't pay me to drink coffee and chair a council meeting at the same time. So anyway, they're going to be paying me to do anything in a few months. That'll be the fastest you've ever walked in and out of the room, Councillor
I
Rogers.
didn't even get to check my.
Oh, well, I just complained that I'm not even getting a chance to drink my coffee. So anyway, 324, the engineering services contract. Shane?
So council was just asking for an extension a bit longer so Kerry and I can finalise a few points and have it out by the end of this week.
Questions?
Is there a typo here, extending it to January 2024,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yep.
Do I have a mover?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we have a current extension in place already at the moment. don't we?
That's correct. It expires on.
It's just that, yeah, because that says expired, which it did, but we have temporarily extended it.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So the
But
extension,
it reads like we don't have something in place.
Yeah, I guess what we could do there is just amend the resolution to read to extend to further extend the current contract arrangement, which would
Yeah.
indicate that this is a second extension or a subsequent extension. Yep, that's perfect. Move up. Councillor Hanson, seconded. Councillor Plum. Those in favour? I'm pleased the Director of Corporate Services supports that report. I don't know if I can record the vote 8-0, but it is 7-0 anyway. In all my time at the table, I've never seen an officer vote. There's the first for everything. Must be time for a holiday, Dean.
No one's big game. to
Oh.
we'll get him to move.
And I thought I was the only Dan that got confused in these meetings.
No, clearly not. Councillors, due to the status of the chamber, should we proceed with the discussion of agenda item 325, whereby we would lose a quorum, can I have a vote, please, to refer this agenda item and all decisions within to the Standing Committee, Policy Standing Committee of Council, which for today's purposes will consist of councillors Gleeson and Dillon.
Through you, Mr Mayor, can we vote saying we have
To defer the items,
just
yes.
to defer it?
Yes. It's the same as we could vote in a minority without a quorum to allow other councillors to remain in the room. And should you not refer this to the Standing Committee, then it goes for ministerial approval.
And we'll just conduct this at the end of this meeting.
Yep, and that meeting will be conducted immediately on the conclusion of today's general meeting. Councillor Hanson moves.
No, sorry, Mr Mayor.
Question.
There is only one policy here that I have a conflict in, not the whole lot, and that does make it easier.
Well, we were going to just put them through as a block of policies, so I think it probably makes it easier.
Yeah.
So Councillor Gleeson and Hanson move and second that the matter be referred to the Standing Committee. Is there any further discussion? Those in favour? 7-0. You've just taken a note of that and you'll record that separately later on. Thank you. All right, 326. Is there a 326? Sorry, I'm wrong.
Everyone says 331.
Right. Sorry, my apologies. 331. Financial performance report. Can I have somebody please move that we receive the report? Councillor Gleeson, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour? 7-0. Right, Dan.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll run through the report. The Council adopted the budget in June. These figures in this budget, I believe, refer to the amended budget that Council adopted in the October meeting after the first budget meeting. So that's just, I suppose, allowing us to have a better reflection of where we believe the financials are going to end up going forward. If we have a look at the performance report, rates and levies and charges are on track as per budget. The fees and charges are performing quite well in line with expectation also. The recoverable works money is trending up as expected for this time of year, so we're just catching up on a few of our claims that we for work that has been completed.
Sorry, is that recoverable works income the money received or the money that's been invoiced? So has the system recognised all of our recoverable works, whether it's been received or not, or is that just what's actually been received, the payment of?
So a lot of the recoverable works that's in that is related to TMR, RPC projects. When the decision is made to invoice, there's basically only about a week difference between, because the decision's been made by TMR that they're accepting our claim, we raise the invoice, send it to them, and they're paid within the week.
Right.
So
pretty well on the money
there, it has to be invoiced and receivable.
Right, okay.
The grants and subsidies are running quite well. The budget, I suppose, phasing hasn't been updated to reflect that though, so we do have that coming through as expected. We've got some additional funding coming through there in the next, hopefully before Christmas. We'll see how we go with the final prepayment for the flood damage works for the Aramac submission, which has been approved. The interest is trending quite well as well. We are looking before Christmas to invest some funds in an external bank account other than QTC in a term deposit, where QTC's interest rate is a little bit lower than some of what we can get in term deposits at the moment, given that we have a fairly significant balance of surplus, I suppose, cash in the bank. We can invest that at this point in time without it impacting our cash flow over the next few months. So we're looking at which option we'll select, value, obviously, and do some modelling to make sure that we have sufficient cash to keep operations going. In the expense space, employee benefits is slightly above budget for this time of year, only and materials and services is well under budget, largely due to the flood damage works value that's in the budget at this stage. We'll reassess as part of the January budget review whether we adjust that estimate down for what we'll expect to spend in flood damage this year. We do, as we've talked about before, the flood damage amount we have in the budget does reflect somewhat of what the submission is, and we're finding in a lot of cases that we're only spending between probably about 50 to 70% of what that value is to do the job. So we'll reassess that as part of the January budget review. In maintenance programs, they're well on the way. The rural roads program has slowed through November. The rain did have an impact on that, but that has seen it slow down for the moment. Still tracking well above budget. The town streets is right on budget at this point in time, and also our plant operations is tracking slightly above. However, we have paid the full year of insurance there, so that is tracking pretty much in line with where we would expect.
It's coming back into line quicker and quicker every month.
Parks and gardens is also slightly above, given the recent rain. There has been a fair bit of extra work around our gardens and parks to keep the grass managed. On the balance sheet, the cash at bank has decreased slightly this month, more so because we didn't have any substantial grants payments coming through, but it is only a small adjustment back to just over 26 million in the bank. As I should note, the large amount of that 26 million is offset by the trades and payables for our prepaid revenue for a number of grants that we have, for like flood damage, for example, that we received in advance.
Can I ask, so Dan, why receivables are still stubbornly trending so high? We've got 5.5 million, 7.9 million, 6.6 million 3 months in a row. And it's obviously not all coming in.
Now, some of that is referring also to the work where we put claims in for payment. So like the LRCIP 2, 1 and 2 are both in there as well as some of the RMPC works. Not RMPC, R2R works as well.
So how long to get payment? Or you just put it in as a receivable, but the claim may not have been lodged for finalisation until something. Is that what you're saying?
So once we've spent the money for a grant, we then got to make a claim for that funding. Depending on what that grant is, there's different processes that are required. And in the case of our RCIP and R2R, it requires the auditors to sign it and then goes through. So it does have quite a delay. Saying that, we have had a delay like well over 6 months on the LRCI phase 1 and phase 2, which were actually closed out at the end of last financial year. Our final submissions were submitted earlier this year, calendar year, and the auditors, I'm not sure where it's held up, to be honest, whether it's at the QAO, our auditors, but that is reflected in that balance.
I can roll with 2 or 3 million carrying, but it just seems like a really high figure to be owed, especially notwithstanding your commentary around interest just recently, as in 5 minutes ago. Anyway, processes are processes. It's just that even if we had half that money in our account, it would be making a noticeable difference to the interest we received. It's as good as received, but it's not there until it is there, I guess. Anyway, fair enough. You can't do more than you're doing. I just note that. I'm just wondering, is there going to be a point in the financial year where that figure drops right away to that $1 or $2 million level?
Yeah, well, I would expect that we would be getting all of that grant funding coming through, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Capital, there's a summary of the capital there at the moment. Plan has a large list of new items. We've just ticked off a few more earlier today to progress through to start spending that budget. Obviously, the commitments will start to reflect that commitment to expend. But there is, in some cases, like in the plant case, where that's still going to be up to 12 months, nearly away before we see some of that money actually leaving our bank account. buildings and other structures has seen some progress this month as well, and our roads is certainly starting to see some progress there as well. In the cash space, the unrestricted cash expense ratio, a slight decrease this month. That was, I suppose, somewhat reflective of our expenditure was slightly less for the month, which has brought the average expenditure down, which is reflected on that ratio to have it at just over 4 months, which is above the target, which is 4. So, also another way of looking at our surplus cash is looking at that cash that we have that is restrained for purposes for paying off debt and our provisions for our staff. So that is trending still at 6 months, which is quite positive. What else can I say? Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Questions, councillors?
I do have one more note. Just I suppose there has been we did have I did note, I think it was at the last meeting, it might have been the October meeting, that we had requested a extension for our audit, external audit to be completed by the 15th of December, which is Friday. We have experienced some further delays. From the auditors have had some challenges resourcing our audit. Also, we had to make an adjustment to our draft financials that we submitted. So with both those, the audit QAA office shutting on Friday as well for the Christmas break, we won't see that completed until the new year. We're still expecting though to have the annual report, which is done after financial statements have been finalised, to be still done by the end of January. So that's still on track for where we had planned with the adjustment, but the financials have been delayed to the year, unfortunately. So that is, I suppose, just.
And will that mean, but the other elements of the annual report are pretty well like to go, just waiting for the financials?
Yeah.
So as soon as we approve the financials, we can release the report. It was noted at community consultation last night, and I personally would also like to put that report out before the election kicks off proper, so that people have a fair understanding of the state of play. In fact, further to that point, I think the 2 documents that I'd ask Council to publish and push broadly into the community will be both the amended budget following the mid-year budget review in January, so that might not come out till early February, by the time that the staff implement any changes that we enact and endorse, but it will still be out well and truly before the 16th of March, and the annual report. I mean, in those 2 documents, there's nothing really else that shows you everything. They show you what we've done in the lead up to this year and the budget. I mean, otherwise everything's available in every month's report, Steve, really, aren't they? You know, so I think if we really look at budget honesty and election truth, those 2 documents will be the go-to for prospective councillors, but also for the ratepayers generally. Questions, please?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
And the table on page 79 with the restricted cash.
Yep.
Just when it bounces up, like say from July to August, it went up 3 million, like, and then is that because we received funding just in that month, more funding that was tied to, yeah, and also so the unrestricted, it bounced up by 5 million. Is that bags like from September to October it went up by around about 5 million. Unrestricted cash.
Oh,
why is that? Yeah. Is that funding that we received that's not restricted?
Yeah, that would be correct.
And is that, yeah, what was that? We got that in September. Was that the bags?
Wouldn't have been the FAGS grants. I'll have to take that question on notice, councillor, or what that
Just that,
specifically
yeah,
was.
it's a lot of money, that's what I just.
Yeah.
The expenses column, just, can you explain what is that column, please?
Yep, so the expenses column reflects. So the expenditure column reflects our balance of expenses, total expenditure, at the end of that month.
Everything.
Year to date.
Year to date, yeah.
Yeah.
So part of the ratio is the ratio under the financial sustainability framework is only measured on 30 June. But I suppose for us as officers and I suppose for the community to be able to see how we're tracking that throughout the year, we measure it every month. So part of that is it calculates what your average monthly expenditure is to work out how many months of unrestricted cash you got left.
And the other thing was, just at the start of this report, there was noted that there is a number of matters that are highlighted that are going to have an impact and that you're working towards a solution to address those. Have you got any more information on what those impacts are, or what are highlighted?
I suppose what I'm referring to there, Councillor, is the dot points that we have under the report where there is variations from budget.
Yep, so they're the highlighted. Thank you, Dan.
Further questions?
Through you, Mr Mayor, just around our rural roads, like it was brought up at least two of our community consultations about the amount of work and effort that we need to put into some of our rural roads. Like our trajectory of spend on those year to date doesn't leave too much left in the budget for the rest of the year. Are we confident that those roads are going to get seen to under other funding arrangements, or?
Might feel like Kerry was speak to it, but I'll as Kerry goes through the roads and works on a maintenance program, if we need more funds, it'll have to come back to council for approval. Budget amendment.
I would anticipate that we'd be amending the budget in the middle of January, substantially. I'm also, I'm asking, and I will go directly to Kerry next, but I'm wanting to see overlaid the flood damage work in those areas that could pick up the slack for the remainder of the calendar year, financial year, and on whether there would be some of that. But Kerry, do you want to speak on that?
Well, Mr Mayor, the only, just on flood damage, we've only got funding for QRA, at the moment. Even there's no, the recent rainfall and flooding that we've experienced in different areas in the last 3 weeks is not covered by any QRA funding because there's no effect. Whereas TMR, any TMR road has been affected, there is funding for that. So I'm still in the middle of both using RACUS and my experience as a roads inspector going around checking all the roads and I'm not talking about TMR roads, I'm talking about council roads. Checking all those roads to ensure that it is accurate, the status that we have on those roads. I can use an example, Fleetwood Road and Stagmount Road are severely damaged now, whereas they've only just been graded prior to the rain event. So there's going to take considerable funds to repair both of those roads.
So, through you, Mr Mayor, just to clarify, the funding mechanism for the TMR roads as opposed to our roads if there's no event?
That TMR just pay us to fix the road.
As an RMPC?
It's not a declared event.
Right.
But through you, Mr Mayor, just to explain to Councillor Arthur, the TMR have told us under the RMPC contract not to leave a road unrepaired because they will cover the cost ongoing as we repair those roads back to a fit and safe state.
The other thing is, even though we had a really good year at the start of the year, and there was quite a bit of water around, the flood got pulled on dams and borrow pits in a way that I haven't seen for 15 years, to be honest. So the cost of water in both Aramac and Alpha, the cost of hauling water drove our unit pricing for road maintenance, whether it was us or contractors, through the roof. Councillor Arthur, you'll probably be aware of that, obviously, but I was shocked in September at where dams were full in March, they were 3 parts or less empty. Like that, it was, like I've genuinely never seen water evaporate or soak away as quick as I've seen happen at the back end of this winter. And yeah, I know it didn't rain for 4 or 5 months, but it's not rained for longer than that, and we've had water. Whereas there were property owners. I'll give you an example. Glen Moira, the Cyphers, who are contractors of council, for the first time in their lifetime said that we couldn't get water out of dams at Glen Moira, and there'd be no better dammed or watered place in the Alpha District than Glen Moira. So that's both Star Downs and Port Wine Road, 2 high order Cat 1 roads that are hauling water to fix them a long way, which would have drove the unit price. You know, some of that water would have been coming from Mealy Alpha, which is a long way. And I know the Director of Works and Senior Works Supervisors managed quickly to reallocate crews to flood damage away from maintenance, but in between moving, there's still costs attributed back to road maintenance that was extraordinarily high. It wouldn't be true to say that that's a fair unit cost, because, you know, I'm not talking, the councillors wouldn't know, but it was startling, and many landowners were telling to me how apologetic they were that they couldn't give us water, but you can understand their predicament. And it was even affecting flood damage. Contractors that Kerry and Shane and I met with were just saying, we physically can't get water anywhere to haul to it. So, yeah, I guess little circumstances have played out. But the other thing I see from that is that there's been whilst we were waiting for that flood damage from the 22-23 event to kick in, there were senior work supervisors putting graders to work actually doing a job on a road. And so we used to have a Shire Road maintenance with no flood damage. This council's bill was between 3.2 and 3.7 million. We haven't been at anything like that since about 18, 19 financial year, Councillor Rogers, somewhere in the mid of the last term, because we started to pick up flood damage and emergent work grading and reconstruction grading and a whole host of things. If we return, I guess it's a cautionary note that $2 million is not a realistic budget allocation when you have no other means to keep a road. You can't sustain 3,500 kilometres of roads with $2 million. Not out here, doesn't work. So we obviously didn't have some of these roads approved for flood damage, and we're still working through getting that approval on, you know, not for the most recent event, Kerry, but for the February event. When was it? January event. So I guess that, yeah, we should definitely expect to revise up, and a note for a future council budgeting, they should probably start and estimate spending a little more on rural road maintenance, because that's probably a truer cost. We've got away with only spending notionally a little bit, and Jenny has been at pains to point out to us now for a number of budgets that the Roads to Recovery funding is contingent upon council spending a significant portion of own source revenue on both maintenance and capital. And even though that program is expanding and will be quite financially rewarding to council, we do need to be mindful that our internal capital spend that's not funded externally and our internal operational maintenance is maintained at a level that reflects what is required to be eligible for that program moving forward. Further questions?
No, it's just, I think it's something we need to keep an eye on. Like, if we need more money, we need more money. Or if we need to do more work, I should say. But like, we've got carryover projects from last year that are on the budget, like, ridiculously. And we probably still haven't got a gauge on how much time and how much money it's going to cost us to complete those. Yeah, we can just hemorrhage a lot of money in 3 or 4 projects or 3 or 4 areas that can erode a lot of the good work that officers and staff have done.
I think the good thing about, I agree, I think the good thing about a full half-year review and having already received rain is I'll be more confident in standing by a forecast of works in January, early February than I would be in July, because there shouldn't be a dry season left in front of you for that. You could run out of water again in August, September, but that's not this year. And so if we increase that and hopefully pull these other projects into line a little bit with the budget expectation, I'd be hopeful we haven't formally reviewed a budget ever, and we've done it at the first quarter, so the second quarter or the half-year review should be, especially from an operational roadworks perspective, we should be in a much better position, I hope, to forecast reality. All right, any more questions on finance? Councillor Peebles?
All good, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Plum?
I'm fine, thank you.
Councillor Gleeson?
Thank you.
Excellent. Any more, Councillor? Right, 3.2. Can I have somebody move the Community Care Services report? Councillor Beagle, second Councillor Rogers, those in favour? Aaron, Dan?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The few things to note in this report, the Commonwealth Home Assist Program, CHSP, we've now received 90% of the funding for this year's allocation. Also, the home care packages has had some work completed, and that is seeing some of those funds rolling in as well. If we go through, and I suppose additionally, the NDIS, pardon me, is trending above expectation again as well. So if we just have a look at the summaries there, we are looking into the variance, particularly in the Home Assist Secure program. We've got fairly significant amount of contributions that have come through for that program in the last couple of months. Not reflected, I suppose, in the expenditure space. I do know we did some catch up. There was a number of Home Assist Secure packages that were delivered, and there was a contribution that needed to be levied on those for the parties that were receiving the benefit of that, and so that is somewhat of a catch up in some spaces, but that is a fairly significant variance that we are looking into. The CHSP, as I mentioned, there is a fair bit of that funding has come in, and it is reflected in the expenditure as well. NDIS is tracking slightly above budget, or slightly under budget overall, but it is I suppose, a better overall outcome. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Questions? Being none. Three, five, one. Can I have somebody move council information correspondence, please? Councillor Plum. Oh, sorry. 341. Regional Council Business. I just used the page because it's blank. Thank you. Right. Where are we starting? Who's got anything they'd like to talk about? I'll kick off. I'd just like to wish all of the residents, staff and councillors, as well as any visitors to the Bark Baldwin Regional Council area, a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and if they're travelling to or from our region, or to and from, that they travel safely, enjoy their time away and time with family and friends. I'd also like to place on record my sincere appreciation for the hard work and effort of our staff and of my councillors over this year. There's been, once again, a year of new challenges and new objectives. However, we've also delivered substantially in that respect. So I think as a council, we continue from staff to the boardroom to bat above our pay. Sid mentioned this the other day on Friday at the all-staff gathering, which was a fantastic day. That working for a small regional council is a challenge. Everyone knows where you are. They know you work for council, and it's always your responsibility to fix everything. So, to all of our staff who battle away all year to do their job, whether they be administrative staff or external staff, Parks and Gardens, road building crews, librarians, bank tellers, they are a very integral part of these communities. In fact, they are the community in so many ways, and their efforts here do not go unnoticed by myself or by visitors to the region who comment consistently about the way our communities are presented. So well done to the staff from the very top of the organisation to the newest employed labourer. or admin trainee, thank you very much. It is indeed an honour to wear the same shirt as many of you to work. And I wish you all very safe and Merry Christmas. Councillor Rogers.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to second your Christmas wishes to everyone that's involved in VRC and also the community. But the other thing that I'd like to recognise is just all those people that actually came out and attended our community forums in the last week. Like, I think I speak for everyone when I say that it's one of the most rewarding parts of the job when you're taking feedback from the community like that face to face. And I just would like to remind everyone that it is really important to attend and keep up the good work. And yeah, hopefully next year we'll do a little bit of the same.
Maybe even one more, Councillor.
Yes.
Okay. With respect to that, there's going to be a Mayoral Minute probably immediately after morning tea with respect to some outcomes from those community forums, and another two Mayoral Minutes, but one specifically to do with the community forum. So thank you. Councillor Plumini.
I have a couple. First of all, I would like to also agree with you with the Christmas wishes to our staff, but there's a couple of staff that I would like to first of all say thank you to Dan for his Friday. Exceptionally good day. Please make sure you organise it for next year in case I'm not in the seat. Everyone enjoyed it and it was great. And I also would like to thank Lily for bringing Christmas to Barcaldine this year. It's hardly been around previous years, and this year I'm sure everyone's got on board and made Christmas, exposed Christmas in our town, and for those people that are staying around with this Christmas have something to enjoy. So I'd like to send a big cheer out to those two.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, yeah, I'd just like to reiterate yourself and the Deputy Mayor thanks. Merry Christmas and thanks to all the staff and the community members, and especially those that showed up for our most recent round of community consultations. We do appreciate the feedback. And just a specific one for Sue Whiten of Muddaborough. She received an Excellence Award from the Strategic Operations Service Unit of Central West Health and Hospital Services for the work that she does up at the clinic there in Muddaborough.
Debbie, can we write to Sue on behalf of the council, please, and congratulate her for that? Thank you, Dan. Councillor Hanson.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. But one other thing, on behalf of myself and I'm sure all the councillors and staff, I'd like to thank you for your attendance here as the Mayor, and I personally have enjoyed the last 4 years working under you as Mayor, and I wish you the best in your future endeavours.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gleeson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you very much for the staff and the fellow councillors. Friday evening, the staff gathering was very, very well received and run extremely well. The recognition, had positive feedbacks about that. The community consultations, they're a great thing, and they should, and we will, I'm saying we, the council will have endeavour to do it twice a year, and all the very best. Thank you.
Councillor Peoples. You're muted, councillors.
Just to reiterate some of the things you said, Mayor, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I want to thank all of our staff, right from the top right through to everyone that we employ. Thanks for a great year. To everyone across the region, I wish them all a very Merry Christmas. Sean, personally, thanks for your leadership, but as was said by my co-counsellor before, I wish you all the best in your change of direction. I hope it all works out good. And I would also just give a shout out to all of our volunteers across the commission that play such a big part in our community with all of the sporting events and all of the things that volunteers do. They play such an enormous role in the social life and the running down. So thanks to all of them too.
Right, thank you, councillors. I think one takeaway from that, Shane, is the absolute respect that all of our councillors have for the role that our staff do and the roles they do. So if you can communicate our thanks on behalf and if the respective team leaders can to their team, that we're very acutely aware of the hard work and effort that they put in and the fact that we couldn't make the decisions without their input and value.
Definitely pass that on.
351. Can I have somebody move councillor information correspondence to be received, please? Councillor Hanson, seconded. Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? Carried 7-0. Anything with any note? I note my old friend Kathleen's signature here for one last time.
I think the general discussion is there's a bit of movement in the OIA and some changes and some other correspondence through about trying to clear up backlog so that new council term will have a new set of rules with a bit more clarity, and it's very hard to talk in depth about it, but it does look like the government finally made some changes there that will support council instead of the backlog we're dealing with.
Okay. Any questions about any of it? Planning and Development Report. Agenda item 352. Can I have somebody move to be received, please? Councillor Plum, seconded. Councillor Arthur. Those in favour? 7-0. Questions?
Taking for ready, Mr.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just that summaries dropped off again.
I'll get that.
Away, obviously.
Yeah, Shamo was whatever. You did it.
353. Workplace Health and Safety Report. Can I have somebody move that report be received, please? Councillor Plum, seconder. Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? Carried, 7-0. Questions?
This is just another meeting, just that follow on with accumulated injuries to show where we're going to focus. And just that the safety system's being rolled out with a bit more intensity now as well, leading into January.
No questions? 361. Have somebody move my report, or I'll move my report be received. Seconder, please. Councillor Plum, those in favour? Carried 7-0. Any questions about any of that?
Mr Mayor, the Anzac Park in Alpha, what's the, it's just an upgrade or refurbish?
Yeah, we're going to have a discussion later today about what the options are, and there'll be a report to the next meeting with a 3-step process for that. So Karen's got the notes from that, and after the meeting we'll have a workshop to discuss what phase 1, 2 and 3 of that project looks like, councillor. I surprised all of the councillors with the outcome of that at the forum the other day in Alpha, but I knew we weren't discussing it, as in deciding on any of it today. So probably the only thing is that the statewide oversight group has identified the fact that the distribution of the funds for pest, weed and animal strategies has not been done in an appropriate manner in terms of on-ground support. So there's going to be a reallocation, a meeting to decide on the reallocation of how that money is spent. I haven't yet got any papers for that meeting, so, but it could have a positive impact on, say, the management of something like a sticky florestina or a prickly acacia in our patch would be two that I would suggest, all pigs. Those three things could benefit from that.
Mr Mayor, with the Burlington Water planning scheme, that obviously doesn't affect Buckhall and the other side of the range. Your involvement with that have to do with the Alpha Creek and Valiendo and
Which one, sorry?
the Burlington Water.
Yeah.
Water planning scheme, is that for just planning for maybe more reservoirs or irrigation or?
Well, so the Burdekin Water Plan is undergoing a reassessment of what should happen with the surplus water that's in the catchment from the Star River in the north to the Belander in the south, obviously, and every river in between. The Burdekin Falls Dam Stage 2 is budgeted to proceed, so they're looking for extra water out of the catchment to put into there so that they can maintain their environmental flow. There's 120,000 megalitres in the Belander Strategic Water Reserve, 15,000 in the General Water Reserve. There's 120, and there's 15,000 in the Strategic Water Reserve, and Adani's 5 is about to come back, so that'll go back to 20. It is my fear that the government will rip the whole 140,000 megalitres of water out of the Belander and put it into the Burdekin Falls. So it is what I as mayor of one of the councils impacted, we are on the working group, the strategic working group. It's a 2-year project, so obviously someone else is going to have to fill that role. But yes, the water that is currently allocated to the Belander needs to stay there, and the problem that the department and the government will tell you is that it's not utilised. Well, it's not utilised because there's no application process to get it. They very cleverly said, yes, there's 120,000 waters available for irrigation, but there's no methodology to apply. There's simply no application for it. So it's the way the environment, it's the way that the government can say they've released water to keep industry quiet, but actually not release water. There are examples of where they have released this water. So part of this process, whilst it could be viewed as negative, is actually positive, because if you can build a supporting case from an economic perspective, and the environment and the science backs you, well, we could actually see that the water plan releases that water, and I think that's the intent here, is that water be released with no infrastructure, so no need for weirs or dams, which are obviously politically sensitive, but off-stream storage, the same as a Condamine Ballon type system. To that end, Rapid has done a regional water assessment of its own, and has put a fair bit of money into both the economic and the environmental analysis of what that water would do. So that will form part of the base for a case moving forward to use water out of that catchment. There's already so much Category X cleared land immediately adjacent to the river. It's not like you're in the pristine wilderness of the north where you've got to go and clear every acre or every hectare before you irrigate. The country's already cleared and considered of low environmental significance, so it would be very beneficial for this region if we were to see the establishment of an irrigation scheme this far away from Emerald, from a fodder perspective, but also an equity value. That water would significantly increase the land values of the Buckhall Regional Council area, massively so.
Can I ask another question about the beef corridors steering committees? Is that a group from each shire?
It's the mayors of the shires from Gladstone, Rockhampton, Banana, Woorabinda, Central Highlands and Isaacs. And the steering committee is still meeting for the next couple of months to work with the Department of Transport to establish the governance to deliver the funding. So now that the funding is committed, we're working out on what that governance will look like, because it actually, the scope of works crosses 2 main roads district, 2 TMR districts, and what we're looking to see established within TMR is a working group the same as the Charters Towers to Mungandai Inland Freight Route, the IFR, where it crosses 3 districts, and has local government stakeholder investment in it. So we're working with each other to put together a model where local government will still retain a seat at the table in ensuring that that funding doesn't get diverted to other projects, that all of the roads that are in the initial scope of works is undertaken. With technical groups for that would consist of the Director of Works, Director of Finance from each council, but at the moment it's just a strategic group. So it's mayors and CEOs.
So, Mr Mayor, did you say mayors? There were mayors on each thing. Are they, when you step out, the council has a representative straight in?
The my replacement will step in there. Our hope is that by then that steering committee will be wound up. It'll be a technical group if TMR sign off on it. So that group moving forward then would look like the Director of Works of each of the council areas, TMR, engineer, project planning. It would be like the money's secured now. So from an advocacy point of view, which is all mayors can do, our role is pretty well wound up. What we're still just finishing our last body of work is to make sure that councils aren't sidelined in the decision-making process, because we are in most cases going to be significant contributors to the construction of those works, but they're also, obviously of extreme importance locally. So if we can build a governance model that looks something like what I just outlined, then by probably February, March, our work will be done. There'll be not a very significant body of work for the likes of Kerry and his team, but that will be in concert with all of the other, directors of works or infrastructure managers or whatever they are across the various councils. And in due course, we will probably, either January or February, we'll put those engineers / Director of Works together with us to sort of pass the baton over.
Thank you.
362. Someone move Shane's report. Councillor Plum, second, and Councillor Arthur. Those in favour? Carried 7-0.
Councillors, so it's been a fairly busy couple of weeks. There's obviously some work in place. The Mayor and I did attend the Friends of Rapid down in Brisbane. We took that opportunity while we were there, not just to meet with DGs and ministers. We attended a function at we called the NHR to celebrate Red Ridge. It was a great opportunity to meet both state government employees and share some time together and meet some very good speakers on what we're doing as councils collectively. So that was good. CEOs of West also had a meeting. Cows, we're looking regionally to employ a joint environmental health officer. Those interviews will be shortlisted and are taking place. There's not enough work for an individual EHO in one council, but collectively there is. So we're looking at how we can, as a group of councils, work collaboratively to get the things we need done, your health licences, inspections. We had a quite large pool of candidates, so we've got to the point of shortlisting now with some interviews. We can easily go around having a look at our towns and streets. As we talked about the STP Sewage Treatment Plant, Kerry and I have a meeting this Thursday to progress that one. We're obviously working through meeting with department heads when it comes down to our acquittals and reporting, whether it's TMR or whether it's flood damage. And we just recently had a meeting with QRA to talk about funding flood damage, and there's another round of funding called QRRRF. Can we explain what the RRF is? Resilient QRRF, to talk about disaster management funding and some opportunities there a council can apply to support some grants. So we're looking at that one. As you see through there, our safety management system, we've now got our HSRs, which is our safety reps across the region, who will now undertake some training to be a broad supporting role for both staff and council moving forward in implementing our safety management systems. Those visits and training will take place. We've also got those Ranger HR policies we'll talk about today, and there's more to roll out. Transitioning, we did talk last night about community consultation. It's a draft letter to go out to residents, So I'll have the mayor proof with me to go out, which will create some discussion points, obviously in the community, about our transition across the new landfill station. In the community, I really enjoyed last week with community consultations, some good feedback across the region. It's a good chance to travel around, see what a difference a week of rain has done. Feedback both, positive and where we can improve is always good to receive. Enjoyed the time with councillors out travelling around doing that. And then we're finishing off last night. Obviously the bit for me that I really enjoyed was Friday with the staff get together. A lot of work done by district managers, by Dan, showed a lot of courage to wear the outfit that he wore. Which those pictures will come out at some point, so I think we just keep that as a surprise for everyone that didn't attend. But generally the camaraderie and the work that both councils done with staff to try and build that culture, how we work together. I think Friday was a good representation of the spirit that everyone had. Probably the leaders on the day was Aramac because they all wore team shirts. It started off a little bit like a school dance where it was boys on one side, girls on the other. We had our staff shared around. However, towards the end of the day, the mingling and the camaraderie was great. So I'd like to thank staff for their participation while I've got a public forum here. And the work they do, whether it's on the ground or volunteering, which we did discuss on the day, is very much appreciated by not just community, but by us as well, and us as leaders. So I'd just like to pass those thanks on to everyone. We did talk about, and I'm not trying to waffle here, the last bit, we had a really significant 2 or 3 weeks from a disaster management perspective, where we had fighting fires across the board, where the mayor himself was involved. So we leant forward, we're looking at standing up. And one thing we realised is, from a disaster management comms perspective, when you're out fighting fires, communications can be difficult. It's relayed through 2 ways, and we'll see that through SES and fire and everywhere else. So there's some good lessons in that which we'll bring back to the disaster management group. But the effort of volunteers, QFES, the LDMG to stand up and just monitor what was going on. A lot of effort gone into protect property and livestock and pastures, but on the upshoot of that, then we got some significant rain, which helped in that space. So all in all, it's been a big year, from floods in January to minor rain events and fire events. So we can say nothing's done on local government over the last 12 months.
Questions for Shane?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not directly related to the CEO's information report, but our economic development report, is that just with the wind back of hours, like a symptom of that we don't have one this month, or just a slow month?
Didn't supply one. We basically call those no new information providers. Yeah, we'll address economic development in the new year.
Yeah.
We'll get about how we're going to manage that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Further questions? Three, 6, 3.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I didn't get my report in on time because of commitments up, checking out flooded roads, etc. But I do have a report, and I'm requesting that the first part of the report, I've printed it off, but I haven't given it to you yet. It mentions the failure of the contractor, and I request that goes into a confidential session so that we don't embarrass anybody.
Certainly. Can I ask that we...
Further to that, if I could come back to the report, because I've got to go and get it from the printer and give each of you a copy. So if we can
We'll do
come
that
back
after
to
morning
it.
tea. We're 5 minutes away from morning tea, so we'll do it after then. So we'll skip 3, 6, 3.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor,
Needs to
over
contractors.
Smoko, can we check if any
Oh,
of us might
okay.
have a conflict?
Yeah.
Thank you.
3, 6, 4. Can I have somebody move the Alpha Jericho District Manager's report, please? Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour? Karen?
I'll take the report being received and noted. One of the things I do want to point out, and it was raised at the community consultation, was the Jericho ATM. Next have continually apologised for their part to play in all of this, the person I deal with anyway. And just, they've changed their, what they perceive as the way forward for them with Jericho being so remote. They've changed their policies on them filling the machine to a cashed option, which we're investigating now. So I'm working towards looking at other suppliers in that regard and moving on from Next altogether. So that one is still a work in progress, and it's been dragging on for so long. So, but again, Next have taken responsibility for that, as they should. And just the other point I'd like to make is the Alpha Showgrounds PA system. So we've got the scope ready to go out and get quotes on that one as well, and recommendations from suppliers. Happy to take questions.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Gary here.
Councillor Peters.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask, for some clarity with the pool leases, they used to come to council, what's that up there?
I had an option for an extension, is that right?
Which had been exhausted, so we couldn't find any signed paperwork. So as far as we were concerned, we didn't have a current contract with the pool leases, which is why we went for memorandum of understanding with the current leaseholders to June next year. So early in the new year, we will go to tender for both leases. So we've got paperwork in order.
Okay.
That answer your question, councillor?
Not really, Mr. Mayor. If they couldn't find a contract, how have we done the tender if we don't know what the other contract was?
Sorry, I missed.
How do we go and extend it if we don't know what the other contract was?
We had the previous contract, which it ran out in June 2022. So based on that, we went to King & Co to get a variation of deed to cover both the council and the current leaseholders. So we weren't exposing council to any risk, and that's been signed by Henry Taylor and signed by council.
So the lease arrangement and contract arrangement is the same as what was in 2022's contract?
Correct. It got extended until June next year.
Okay. Just remember when we done that last contract?
The extension kicked in 2019, I believe, which was the 2-year option, which took it to the 21-22, which is when that 2-year option ran out. They believed they had an agreement signed with the previous DM, which we couldn't locate and they couldn't provide, which is why we opted to go down the cautious path and secure both them and council and go to the variation of the current agreement to June next year.
And there'll be a public tender process commenced in the new year
Yes.
for
New.
1 July for moving forward.
Correct. So that's currently being drafted up by King & Co for us to go to tender with.
Yeah, okay. A little bit lost there, Mr. Mayor. I thought that new contract with any form should come back to council.
Fair enough, councillor. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the ATM, you're just running into hurdles all the time.
They keep changing the goalposts, correct? So we had a signed agreement and now they've stepped back from that, saying that they will not cash the ATM because it's a too great a risk for them, even though we provided them with designs of how we would reinforce the flooring. And then this time around there would be cameras up. But they're just saying that the risk of the money in the machine, if it gets stolen again, was too great for them. And that was, months after we'd signed the agreement and were ready to proceed. So I believe options are being looked at as what our legal avenues are against Next, given we have a signed agreement with them to say they would fund it. So that's sitting with Dan at this point in time. So they've said, I think it's pronounced Prosecure, they're currently joining with Armaguard and they fill the ATMs out this way. So they also, Prosecure also supply an ATM solution. So rather than go through Next and a third party, I've gone straight to them and I'm waiting to have a conversation with them about what a contract or arrangement would look like with them, given that they will be the ones filling the machine anyway.
Thank you.
Prosecutor aren't the problem ones, it's Next.
No, they're
who's been
not,
trouble.
that's correct, that's correct.
Another one, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not sure, the rural lands officer, we have had, and again it come up the other day at Jericho about the Arisia cactus in the Jericho Common. Can we be looked into?
The Mayor a minute to address that shortly, we can discuss that in great length then.
Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, considering last month we found out we didn't have a lease for a hangar, and we've just found out that we most likely didn't have a lease for 2 of our pools, is that going to trigger council to maybe have a check into what leases we do and don't have in place and what we should have?
Talk about our records management discussion. Our work is still files.
Thank you.
Any further questions? We will break for morning tea.
Thank you.
Which hasn't arrived, but we will break it.
I'll go find it. I'll go get it.